Hello, my beautiful friend. Today for you I have an updated version of the portable custom crafting station design. It is still multiplayer friendly, has a few tweaked toggleable options, and has been made to have a more friendly interface to those who might be command inexperienced. I'm going to grab a few materials, and we're going to go over to the testing area to showcase how this works. Then we'll head over to the spawn chunks and take a look at some of the newer commands that I've added to this, as well as some of the old ones in case you're unfamiliar with how this works. So the first thing you're going to do is place down a block of your choice. This can be any block, and I'll show you how to change it. I've chosen the enchantment table for the showcase. And when you put it down in the world, it's going to make a dropper like this. Now you can put down any custom recipe that you want, and it'll instantaneously create the item that you'll need. But this also has another option, which you can turn off the instantaneous crafting, and it will only craft until you give it a redstone signal. So if I press the button, one glass came at the top, there's still two in there. This works best if your recipe outputs one item, that way the item just comes out of the dropper entirely and you can pick it up. Now there's kind of a halfway step that you can work with this, in which you can give it constantly a redstone signal, and it will act like an immediate crafting system until you don't want it to. So I quite like that option as well. You can only craft it when you want it to craft. So that's the basic rundown of how it works. When you break the block, you get the original block back. And again, anywhere in the world that you want. And now that I've showcased it, let's go over to the spawn chunks and we'll explore some of the more options that we have with this setup. And welcome to the spawn chunks. Now before we go over the commands, there are two more options I'd like to share with you. You already know about the redstone powered versus immediate crafting. Now, you can name the dropper whatever you want. I've called it Crafting Station, but again, any name will suffice, and to do that, you're going to want to go into this command block here. Now, to reduce lag, I've wired up the fill clock in such a way that before you change the name, you have to make sure that redstone powered is on, and that's what this indicates here. So go into the command block, and between the two quotation marks, give it any name you want, like, you're so beautiful. Mites. Yeah, it suffices. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Now once you've done that, press the button and it's going to go through the system and it's going to update a few command blocks. Once it does, it's going to teleport you to one command block in the system. And in this one, you're going to want to change the name to the same thing. And once you've done that, you're all set to go. So just place down your crafting station and ta-da! Works the same as always. Now there are two scoreboard objectives in this system. There's just a plain dummy objective called dummy, and this has only one use, and you'll see it later. The one that we're using the most is actually one called dummy reset, and this one is what is in control of the block that is the portable custom crafting station. The block that can be any block in the world, but ideally it needs to be one that is not common, if at all, in the world. And a bad example of this would be grass, wood, stone. Ideal examples are enchanting tables, even end portal frames, because when you place it down, it turns into a dropper, so even indestructible blocks can suffice as one. I'm just going to use glass to show this off because it's on my hotbar. Update it. It's going to teleport me to here. I'm going to update this, and you're going to want to update one more, which is right over here. And these are the two commands that change the dropped item back into the original item. So let's go up here, switch into survival, place down our glass. Still works the same as always, and when we break it, it turns into glass. So those are the options that you have. Now let's quickly run down what commands we have here. Now all these command blocks that you see are actually the exact same command, and that was the name command. When you put a name in there and press the button, it clones it over to here, and a series of 7 command blocks extrapolates it across this entire area here. So basically it clones this chunk, and it copies, and then when it's done copying, it activates them all, and it changes the block data of the droppers into the name that you provided. Now, before, when you recall, when we made the custom crafting system, we actually had our recipes off to the side in droppers over here, but now it's much more linear. You have your custom crafting recipe, the block that is testing for the custom crafting recipe, and the block output. Now, I have provided droppers up here in case you want to use clone. before we use block data, and I really like the block data command, and I'll explain why shortly. But to use it, you do need a slightly more than beginner level understanding of item code. This is actually very simple to use and to figure out. But if you don't want to use the block data command, you can use clone. For example, I have this block cloning over to where we have our custom crafting station, and I can demonstrate that for you right now. I'm going to quickly just turn off redstone power to immediate crafting. I'm going to put in a few items here, and watch what happens. I have a whole stack of dye, and I'm just going to put one in. But when I clone a block over, it actually drops me out of the block, and that is kind of the major con of why I personally do not like that, because it drops you out. Now, if you do have everything settled out, if you do just have one item that you can put it in, everything's fine. You get back the item. Again, pros and cons, use to your own discretion. I prefer block data, but the choice is there. You can also run an option where you have a block data command in here that actually, sorry, not a block data, but a test for block that specifically tests for the items that are in here as well, just like it is in here. But the major downside to that is the way I have it set up so that it doesn't lag as much. It's most ideal to use the block data command, but in future videos I will show you ways that you can use a test for block command in here instead of testing for this. Pros and cons all around. Now this setup here is what reduces a lot of the lag. This is a standard fill clock that's filling clocks right here if it's running, and this is only used when we are testing or when we are using redstone powered. It does not work for immediate crafting. And what this does is that it tests for the entity that is within our custom crafting system and is testing for whether or not the dropper is activated or not. If the dropper is not activated, then actually it turns off these command blocks here so we don't get any lag. And if it is activated, then it does turn on this fill clock here and does run it. So in a way, it reduces the lag by only running all these commands here when we're actually testing for the recipe. If we just have these 9 clocking blocks here, there's not a lot of lag. But in my own personal world where I had 4 rows of these, so this, I had all these rows filled up with custom crafting recipes, and it did give a significant amount of block lag in the world, so I did add that system to it. I will now be explaining the setup of the portable custom crafting station. I have explained this in previous videos, but if you do not know how it works, I'll explain it to you now. The main objective that we are going to be using in this is the use item objective of the block that is going to be our custom crafting station. All players in the world that put down that block will turn it into a double plant block. Then all the air around them will be set with a junk block and then back to air again. This updates the double plant block and turns it into an item entity. We give that item entity a score. In fact, we can even give it a score in a player objective of dummy reset. Then relative to that item, we set block a command block with a command already inside it. And this command summons a armor stand with a custom name of crafting, and it's wearing a crafting table as its head, just as an aesthetic feature. Then the next thing it does is actually it moves the block that is above it and puts it down to bedrock level. Then it sets a already placed button on top of it, activating the command block. Afterwards, it clones the block it moved to bedrock level back above to where it was and set bedrock back down to its place. The next thing it does is that, and this is only activated once when the commands are setting up the crafting station, it gives the armor stand a score of dummy reset of naught. And then it also gives a naught score to dummy objective as well. So this armor stand has 2 objective scores. Both of them are not, and specifically for the dummy objective, if the command is small, what the dummy reset one will do is basically the commands behind it which make it multiplayer friendly. The dummy objective is what's going to be removing it when the block is broken. Then the armor stand simply sets a dropper with our custom name inside it, and these 2 commands are the multiplayer friendly commands. This is a lag reducing command. It will set all armor stands who have a dummy reset score above naught back down to naught. And this is a stats command that tests for the success count of the armor stand. So basically, if the armor stand successfully runs a command somewhere in the world, they will have a score of 1. And because of how it's set up, they will only have a score of 1 for 1 tick if they successfully test for the blocks down here. So basically, we test successfully for our custom crafting recipe with our test for blocks command. The score is set to 1 right here, and it gives the block data command or the clone command and gives you the custom item. Now we just have some cleanup commands over here, which again, if an armor stand with this dummy score of naught detects air, it removes itself. And then just your regular cleanup commands. This removes items that have a score of dummy reset is -1, so basically it removes that double plant item, and then just the player having their score reset. And that's how it works. Again, I try to explain this as quickly as I can because of its complexity. So if you have any questions, do leave it in the comments below. There's a world download, a schematic, and a command list in the description. So yep, that's it. I certainly do hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I know that I did. I do just look forward to making more when I am able to. But that is all for now. And I do look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Hey, man, how you doing? How you doing? Oh.